The MLB offseason is officially here. The Los Angeles Dodgers have been crowned World Series champions, and the bidding war for Juan Soto has officially arrived. The New York Yankees came up short of their World Series aspirations, and Juan Soto should be embarrassed to ever put on those pinstripes again. While I joke and say that in jest there, I do think that this was a really bad way to go out of a World Series. A lot of self-inflicted just issues with this Yankees team, sloppy play in the field, making mistakes, avoidable issues. Now, granted, this Dodgers team is great. This isn't really the biggest sign, and obviously they took care of business, well-earned World Series for them. But what I'm interested in talking about in this video here is how this impacts our Philadelphia Phillies, and most notably, if they do have a legitimate chance at Juan Soto. So there's been a ton of rumors connecting them to the Yankees superstar here, and most notably, we did have this from Bob Nightingale saying that the Philadelphia Phillies are expected to strongly pursue him to team up with Scott Boras' client Bryce Harper. There's obviously a ton of relationships here. We've talked about Soto a bit already, but now that the free agency period has begun, that it is officially the offseason time, I do want to dive into what we officially know on the topic. So a couple things that I want to dive into here. For starters, why I have optimism that this is the case. And the number one reason for that is John Middleton himself. And this quote fires me up from him. So to pull it up exactly, we have, and shout out to Jack Fritz of WIP for tweeting this, and this coming from Middleton himself. He said, quote, "How much money did the 27 Yankees make, or the 29 A's, or the 75-76 Big Red Machine?" Middleton said. "Does anybody know? Does anybody care? Nobody knows or cares whether any of them made any money or not, and nobody cares whether I make any money or not. If my legacy is that I didn't lose any money owning a baseball team on an annual operating basis, that's a pretty sad legacy. It's about putting trophies in the cases." And this fires me up. That is exactly how an owner should think. And I do give a ton of props for John Middleton for walking the walk. This is not just all talk, that we've seen him go out and get these big ticket free agents. Just look at Trey Turner and that deal. And while this has not fully transpired in the way that we've hoped for Turner, that still is an example of him going out and getting the guy that he thinks the team need. And I think that's exactly what he needs to do this summer. Now, there's going to be stiff competition for Juan Soto. This is a guy still approaching the prime of his career who is undoubtedly one of the biggest talents in baseball currently, and really there's going to be a case for history when everything is said and done for him. To dive into specifically what we saw from him this year, just 26 years old, he had 41 home runs, 109 RBIs, a 419 on-base percentage there, hit the ball 166 times in his 576 at-bats, struck out 119 times. Just an absolutely incredible baseball player and a guy that I do think this Phillies team is missing. Now, I will say, dove a little deeper into Juan Soto, and I saw a couple of comments. You guys are absolutely right about the fielding being dreadful, even more than I fully expected or recognized until diving in, kind of looking at a couple of the lowlights for Soto specifically. But that's something that I can live with, and I do think the bat is the bigger issue for this Phillies team. When you look at these teams in the World Series, the murderer's row that pitchers have to face for the Yankees, and it was Giancarlo Stanton, it was Aaron Judge, was Juan Soto, that kind of trio right there, the big three. You look at this Dodgers team, obviously Shohei Ohtani, the guy taking the conversation there, but it was Freddie Freeman that was the star of the show, and it's about having this number of fearful hitters in the lineup. The Phillies have Bryce Harper. I don't know if Nick Castellanos brings quite that same kind of intimidation, although he was excellent in these playoffs. Don't mean to come down on him. I do know that Trey Turner does it. And yes, Kyle Schwarber is good. Yes, JT Realmuto theoretically is better than, we saw from him towards the tail end of this year. There are good players on this Phillies team. What I think they're missing is that guy to absolutely strike fear into opponents' hearts, and that's exactly who Juan Soto is. Now, our very own Luke Arcani did chime in on things, kind of speaking things. He did, through Crossing Broad, do a little bit of a Ask Me Anything, kind of a mailbag segment. So did want to touch on him specifically, what he thought. And the question originally here is posed, how realistic do you think landing Juan Soto actually is? And if we miss out on him, who is another outfielder that you'd like to see? And Luke writes, money talks. It's as simple as that. But relationships matter too. I think Soto's pass with Harper, Turner, Schwarber, and Kevin Long is going to play a factor. If we've learned anything from Bryce Harper in the offseason, he's going to do what he can to help recruit. I've talked a lot about Jerickson Profar, but with just one good season, it's a bit of a risk. Tyler O'Neill makes an impact, but if you're looking for a guy with quality at bats, I wouldn't dig too much into O'Neill. Cody Bellinger doesn't make sense anymore. Anthony Santander and Teoscar Hernandez are big ones. The power bats that are proven to be elite. I prefer Teoscar there, but I don't know if he leaves LA, especially if they win the World Series, which of course they did. The Phillies have options. It's just a matter of how the cards turn. And to add on this a little bit more from Luke, he was asked, if the Phillies don't land Soto, do you see them pivoting to another free agent or trying to work out a trade for someone like Kyle Tucker or Lewis Robert Jr.? Kyle Tucker, not a name that we've talked about yet. We did dive into a bunch of the names on this list already. But Luke writes, I think a big trade is just as likely as a big signing. Kyle Tucker in this lineup would be a dream. He's 27 years old. He'll be 28 on opening day 2025. He's a World Series champion, 3-time All-Star, Silver Slugger winner, Gold Glove winner, and has a career 139 OPS. He struck out 92 times in 157 games in 2023. He's a disciplined hitter. Throwing Tucker in the two-hole of this lineup would be incredible. Tucker is a name that I have not fully considered, and I will say Luke sold me pretty well on that blurb there. But to me, these are all backup plans. That plan A should be attack Juan Soto, present that blank check, bring Bryce Harper with you, bring Kevin Long with you, bring everybody with you. I did want to pull up this picture exactly here, which does warm my heart quite a bit, which is, of course, and to pull it up exactly, Bryce Harper, Trae Young, and Juan Soto back in the day. And one of the pieces, I know in general, my biggest takeaway here is just the talent of Juan Soto. Another part of this that I do think is very important is his youth, that I do think you need to extend this window a little bit and be thinking towards the future. I love all these guys, the core that they have, but they're all on the north side of 30 for the most part here. Bryce Harper himself, Trey Turner there, Nick Castellanos, of course, JT up there in age. It's really not a lot of youth on this roster. We're talking about the Johan Rojas of the world, Alec Boehm, really the youngest everyday starter for this team. And Soto's younger than him, that having like a cornerstone next generation player could extend the championship window for this Phillies team, having a longer chance at the World Series. And again, it is going to be a money talk situation. Now, the last thing that I did want to refer to was this Matt Gelb article, which really kind of broke things down. This came out immediately following the Phillies' exit from the postseason, but I do think Gelb is probably the most tapped-in reporter on the Phillies scene here. Corey Spielman and, of course, Alex Coffey does an excellent job as well, so there are a number of faces here, but I do think Gelb is very much in the know. And as far as his breakdown for the offseason expectations, he started off saying that the Phillies are going to be making changes, perhaps drastic ones with the core, in parentheses, Bryce, Trey, Wheeler, Schwarber, and Nola staying the same. Payroll will not have any restrictions this offseason, which is a huge deal there. They will be in on Juan Soto, and the Kevin Long, Harper, Trey, Schwarber, and Howie Kendrick replacement might play a factor. Both New York teams seem to be the favorite as of now. It's also been very much reported that Soto is basically going to be going to the highest bidder, and that's what happens for Scott Boras clients. That this does feel, and me and Luke have kind of had a little bit of disagreement on this. I personally feel that if he had won the World Series, he would not be leaving New York. Luke feels that there's a more likely chance that he comes back now that, there's unfinished business. I think Soto is incredibly talented, is going to be worth every penny that he gets, and this is going to be one of those record-breaking deals. I understand it's a lot of money. The Phillies have plenty invested. But what my biggest takeaway and what I really feel about this roster is they have to make a sizable move. If it's not Soto, it's got to be somebody. But you might as well swing for the fences here. You can win a World Series if it is Juan Soto added to this Phillies team. I feel 100% confident about that. Now, baseball is a weird sport. That is not a guarantee that it happens. We saw how the bats have gone cold at the worst opportunities. We've seen the bullpen blow up, the worst opportunities for this Phillies team. Obviously, they have not gotten over that edge just yet, but this is the type of needle-moving move that could get the job done there. So I want to see it happen. I'm all in on Juan Soto. I'm going to be breaking down every little inkling and report that we do have regarding him, connecting him to the Phillies as things go throughout. If I have to put my percentage of it happening right now, I don't think it's likely, but I think I probably do a little bit more than most. I'm going to put a 15% chance that Juan Soto is in a Phillies uniform right now, and I'm going to be changing that percentage throughout. And hopefully we have some positive news that gets me a little more hyped up. We can move that number up. There's going to be a lot in the coming days as the dust settles of this World Series exit for the Yankees, and then things begin to get established for next year. So I want to hear from you guys in the comments how you feel about Soto overall. Am I too overly high on him? Do you have concerns about the fielding? For me, the bat is so good that I'm ready to live with whatever comes, and you figure things out. And by the way, shout out to Nick Castellanos, who has quietly turned himself into a completely competent fielder out there in right field. And Soto does have some experience playing left as well. So we can get into all that once things actually come to fruition. Still a lot of offseason to get into, but we're going to be breaking things down every step of the way right here on Phillies Digest. So appreciate each and every one of you guys for rocking with us. Make sure you smash that subscribe button if you have not already. Drop a like on this video, and I'll be talking with you next time. Peace.